Good afternoon and welcome to the June 5th, 2023 meeting of the City of Charleston's Design Review Board. My name is Erica Chase, the board's chairperson. The board members with us tonight are Stephanie Tillerson, Aaron Stevens, Andy Smith, Ben Whitener, and Dinos Leolio. Ashley Jackal should be joining us shortly. Members of city staff with us are David Meeks and Patrick Carlson. Andy Smith and Dinos Leolio will be recused from agenda item number 2. We do not have any projects that have been deferred, and we do not have any public letters that have been submitted to the board. The order of the meeting will be as follows. David will give an introduction for each project and an overview. Then the applicant team will have 10 minutes to make the project presentation. If you need time beyond the 10 minutes, please let me know at the start of your presentation. We will then open up the meeting for board questions and then public comments. The public comment period is also limited to 10 minutes. David will then give city staff recommendations, and then the applicant may respond or clarify to public comments and city staff comments. We will then enter board discussion and a vote and motion. The applicant may only clarify inaccurate information during this time or speak if asked a question by the board. With that, if everyone could please silence or turn off all cell phones or any other devices that may make noise. And we will get started with agenda item number 1, 3588 Maybank Highway, requesting approval for demolition after the fact of a structure over 50 years of age.
Just have a few slides, if I could direct your attention to the screen showing the location of the project. Just near the intersection of Main Road on Maybank Highway 3588, right next to Sunrise Bistro. There's a closer view. A few more images when we actually start the presentation. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. You could just briefly speak on.
Oh, okay.
All right.
You had other slides to show. I was waiting. Yeah, thank David. I appreciate it. My name is George Grazzi. I live at 2485 Royal Oak Drive on Johns Island. I've lived there since 1990. I bought 3588 Maybank last January at a master of equity sale. It's been unoccupied since 2017. A Vietnamese family approached me about it. It runs a successful chain of nail salons, and that's what they want to put there. They've signed a long-term lease. If we can get
Sorry to interrupt. If you could just keep it to only the demolition and not what you're proposing to do with the building.
Okay.
Thank you.
Actually, I don't have a whole lot. So basically, what happened is we been working with Stan Tech and Ross Gostin Architects and David Hatcher Engineering. We designed the building, and we were trying to maintain the front and the 2 sides. But when we got all the covering taken off, we found out that all the base plates and lower parts of the 2x4s were decayed, and we were trying to build it back, better with new materials. I've got my contractor and his foreman here to validate what they found when they began the demolition. We are now dead in the water once again, and we would just appreciate you agreeing to let us build this as planned. Great. Did I miss anything?
Anybody else like to speak on it?
I'm Charlie Branks General Contractors. I don't have much more to add than what George had. If you look at the existing building versus the new building, by the time we reframed the walls and the windows, it was probably 90% of the walls would have been replaced anyway. We got into the job, we saw that the bottom sill plates and the bottom of the studs were rotten. So we elected to demo that, keep going. We probably should have called y'all, but we were just trying to keep the project on track. Pretty much all I had.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I can wait for that. Should I go through the slide?
Yeah, go through the slide.
Okay. So this is an image of the existing building. before construction had started. This is what it used to look like. And then we'll resend that for some of the exterior materials were removed. And then this back portion to the left was a newer addition. So that did allow the demo of that portion of the building, since it's not did we review and approve addition that was allowed to be removed. And then I just wanted to show some images of what it's going to look like. Over that demo. This was the roof plan, and there was a very small note that talked about the removal of the roof. Staff did not catch that. Should have sent it to the board at that point. Go over more when I get to this stuff.
Any questions from the board?
Current condition of the house.
Questions from the board? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Just one? Come on up, please. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Sessions, Sessions Living Trust. I own the abutting properties to with Sunrise Bistro is at Strip Mall, and then on 1766 Walpole, which abuts it on the other side of this property. My only concern is the square footage. Of course, with the new construction, it looks huge. I know it's probably the same size, but it just looks huge. Would like to know if the square footage has been maintained from the original project, because that reflects then on the parking places. And I assume that the ring between my property and his property has been maintained, I think it's 12 feet and all, and that was my concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Sessions. I do want to mention that we are just reviewing the demo currently. Any specific questions on the new design and the new development of the project will have to be directed to staff, to David.
Okay.
David can share his email with you and you can get in touch with him and he can help you through that process.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I can answer a question.
If you don't mind, after the meeting, maybe just kind of getting with Ms. Sessions and discussing that with her, that would be great. Thank you. So with that, the public comment period is closed. David, staff recommendations, please.
Thank you. The applicant received a permit to renovate the building, but instead demolished the entire structure. The city noticed and put a stop work order on the job. The applicant was required to appear before the board, who has purview over demolition of all structures in the DRB portals 50 years of age and older. The applicant was required to pay double the application fee for after the fact. Renovations of this project in February of 2023. The plans called for removing the back newer addition to the original structure and then reskinning the original structure. Staff made a mistake and did not see the note that called out the removal of the original roof and to replace it with a higher pitch roof. We should have sent the project to the board for approval for the staff had caught this. We would have recommended approval for the roof to be removed and the newer high-pitched roof to be installed. Or if the applicant had come to the board at the beginning to request full demolition, staff would have recommended approval. Contradicted themselves where sheets A003 and A004 show the original portion of the building to remain, but sheet A102 called for the roof of the original structure to be removed. This roof removal in the back and interior walls and covered porch should have been on a separate dimension. And so when they got to the removal of interior materials in the front portion of the building, they discovered the front and side wall framing was rotted. So they decided to continue to remove all the original structure. Answers that the applicants have already built the original structure walls in the same location and height as the original walls that were removed. And staff's recommendation for the approval to demolish. staff is going to recommend approval for after the traffic demolition. The overall massing of the new building will virtually be the same as what was removed. Only the roof will be a few feet higher, which staff finds is an improvement. The area will benefit from the improvements to the structure, which is keeping with the original neighborhood complex in height scale maps. So with that, we do recommend approval for after the traffic demolition.
Thanks, David. Does the applicant team have anything they'd like to respond to staff comments?
I just hope you take the recommendations.
Thank you. We're now in board discussion and revision.
May I ask the staff, David, a couple of questions just for clarity? So basically, the size of the project falls within the staff review jurisdiction. We would not have seen that coming up.
Correct. I forgot to mention that because the renovation was under 3,000 square feet, it was not.
And there was, if I remember, based upon the review that I saw, it appeared that notes on demo were somewhat spread throughout the documents. There was no demo plan, is what you had indicated too as well. And I guess the only other question that I have is, as far as the option of the board, if obviously if it's approved, it remains the same. If there's a denial, what are we asking the applicant to do then?
I would ask that we have some advice.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
The question was if, understanding the results of an approval, but if the application is denied, what are we asking the applicant to do? That's what we're asking somebody else, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
That's why we're asking the attorney.
That's why we're asking.
There's the lawyer. I'm happy to give you some advice on the interpretation of the code in executive session if you'd like to do that.
Can we make a motion to move to executive session?
Second
Is there a
motion,
second?
yes.
Any further discussion? Stephanie? You vote to move to executive session? Ashley? Aaron?
Yes.
And
Yes.
And I'll say yes. We just step out. We can leave. We'll take a brief moment to enter into executive session and we will return shortly.
The meter's running?
Hi. Do you remember David? David's here next. Come live at our house. How would I know it? Just have routine I'm sure their cousins there. Whoa. Okay. 3 cheese. It happens every day.
Yes.
I'm renting the Maybe those people are becoming asleep. Yes. I didn't choose them. Because they have cats. I'm the right dog for a cat. And what you? Those two.
Makes it fucking who I
It is. Because the old one was like short and long.
Yeah, that was not. No.
2 strikes.
Wrong. So should have. Hopefully we'll be resolved.
Do they want to do that? I guess because it's like furniture.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's.
Would someone please make a motion to exit executive session?
Make the motion.
Thank you, Dina.
Second.
Thank you, Andy, for the second. I will now take roll or vote. Stephanie?
Yes.
Ashley? Aaron?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And I do want to note that no action was taken while in executive session. We are back into board discussion and or a motion.
Because this is such an unusual situation, it seems like the rules that we have followed in the past really are somewhat rewritten by virtue of the analysis of what we're looking at right now. And quite candidly, reading staff's comments, I truly believe that staff should not be taking the bullet on this, but in fact that as far as the review process, typically a set of construction documents is a graphic narrative in explaining how a building is being built, and as a result, it needs to be clear. But that be as it may, looking at everything, and from my standpoint, looking at the way that the proposal is coming back, that there's no great alteration of character as far as the context of the area is concerned. So with that, I would, if unless someone else might have, I will say this is not an enviable position for the board to be in. And that none of us would, I think speaking on for all of us, none of us want to be in a position where we're having to approve demolition after the fact, but unfortunately that's just the way it is right now. I'll be prepared to make a motion, but don't want to look at anybody else.
Go ahead.
I would move for approval of demolition.
Thank you, Dina. So we have a motion for approval of demolition. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any further discussion?
I'll just say thank you for the comments, Tina, so I think you summed it up well.
I'll call roll now. Ashley?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Andy? Ben?
Yes, in favor.
And I am also yes in favor. Very much. We are moving on to agenda item number 2, 2015 Battery Boulevard, requesting preliminary approval for a new fire station number 23.
Actually, I think we've seen this before. So, turn over to the applicant, and all set.
Thanks, David. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. It's good to be here in person. When we did the conceptual application, we were in the Zoom room. So We're glad to be back for preliminary. I'm Jennifer Charzuski. I'm a principal with Neolay Architecture. And here with us today, Jeremy Eaton from the design team, David Likey, the landscape architect, to help with questions, and Beth Garland from the city of Charleston as the owner's rep. So we'll go forward, David, to just to address, we appreciated the board's thoughtful comments of the conceptual application that really focused on the roof overhangs and achieving a more clarity and simplification of that. And there was some discussion about the brick bonding pattern, which we put our design updates in there to say that, you know, we concurred and have simplified and unified the overhangs now on all parts of the building. They're the same depth. We've been able to structure them differently to really maximize the thinness of the roof, minimize the thickness, and to have a consistent language without the exposed rafter tails. And then we'll talk about the brick bonding pattern, I think, as we go through the renderings. So we'll just move quickly through this since you've seen it before, but it's on Johns Island with Maybank Highway frontage next, and there is like an existing drainage pattern running through the site. The site clearing and some tree removal and wetlands remediation was done as part of the PUD prior to the city purchasing the property. So go next. There are some photos which are unchanged from conceptual. There was, we keep going. Yeah, so I think that just one thing to point out to reorient everyone to the site plan. The building has frontage on Maybank Highway, and that's where the emergency apparatus exit will be out of the fire station bay. The rest of the frontage is a protected wetland area. So the building is set back behind that. And the building really has two fronts, because to the south of the building, as part of this project, will be a public access easement to help set up for the future of a public street. And that is where the pedestrian and vehicular entries will come from to the building. Stormwater is a challenge, of course, and so that we'll make use of subsurface stormwater storage both beneath the parking lot and on the east side of the site, as well as some pretty visible large-scale cisterns for pulling water off of the roofs. There you see the diagrams for the subsurface storage, and I guess we'll maybe just skip to the landscape plan. There is a tree mitigation diagram in the package as well. The tree mitigation is going to be a combination of on-site plantings as well as paying into the tree bank, just due to the constraints of the site. And it's similar to this slide. I think just the note we wanted to make on landscape is that obviously that large tree, it's a, I think 111 DH combination, is a significant feature of the site, as well as the wetlands on the frontage. It's really part of the character of Maybank Highway and being preserved. The landscaping going in as part of this project is meant by design to be simple and clean, setting it up for success. As you may or may not know, the firefighters themselves maintain their site. The City Parks Department does not do that. So really working to have simple bed lines, consolidated turf areas, durable plants that can be kept organized, knowing that reality. And you'll see that we've highlighted in posters. We'll click through the next few. There is a site electrical plan. The site lighting will be leased by Berkeley Electric, but the photometrics will be available at a future date once they've done their design. But we did highlight the building mounted exterior fixture, just looking for something very simple and quiet. We included in the package the wall and roof assemblies, but what they show is the exterior veneer is all brick, and the roof is predominantly, if you go forward, standing seam metal roof with an area of low slope membrane roof. We included the finished legend to help key back to the elevations. These are the same materials that you saw at conceptual, and we have the physical box here if you want to see them in person. Now that we're in person, the field brick is in the upper left, and it's a gray body brick with a white slurry coating on it. The accent brick is the darker one, so it's the same body color but without the white slurry. The use of wood is very specific and limited to the framing around the screen porch and a mechanical screen enclosure. I think we're kind of still selecting mortar colors, and then the storefront and painted steel accents are a dark bronze color. The large apparatus bay doors are proposed to be clear anodized or predominantly glass. Next. There haven't been any significant floor plan changes since conceptual. I think if you go, David, to the enlarged one, the one change is that we previously had carved out the mechanical yard out of the building and had done this kind of pierce brick screen wall and somewhat complicated exposed roof structure. We've simplified that and simplified the building geometry and moved some of those units to the hyphen roof. We are pointing out that the electrical meter and service panel are inside the area of the mechanical screen. Next. Again, the only change you see on the roof plan between prior and current is that carve out, which we think has actually been an improvement to really bring the focus on the pop out areas that are featured. But you can see that the hyphen roof does have small condensing units. These are residential scale kind of split system units, and there is a mechanical screen wall shown for both of those on the roof. You can also see here the 3 large cisterns that front Maybank Highway. Screen wall details, the hyphen roof screen is a perforated rimmed panel, and if you go forward, David, the at-grade screen wall is wood. And I think all that's left are the building elevations. We have previous and new, so other than turning off the sun, not in the shadows, the only change you see here is in kind of the cisterns, where we went from 1 large one to 2 to really just pick up the roof areas better. And on the next elevation, you see the change in the cleaning up of the roof line for that mechanical purpose, but no other significant changes. Next. And on the east and west. We click through the streetscape elevations and come back to those if there's any questions. The building sections for reference, there was a question about conceptual with the light monitor, translating to the inside of the apparatus bay, which it will do. And after those, click through these, keep going. The wall sections will show the brick veneer and the square cut overhang detail, and the way we're kind of changing the structure to really get it as thin as possible. I think it's a 6-inch thickness, and it's a 30-inch overhang. At the apparatus bay, we are every 9th course, I think, doing the shadow line. When you saw it at conceptual, it was every 6th course. It was denser, and there was the request by the board to study the coursing between the 2 buildings. So we wanted to provide clarity that all the light colored brick is the garden bond coursing. It's the same coursing, but it's only the apparatus bay with the shadow line protrusion. That came from a desire from city leadership to have kind of a distinguishing feature. When we studied adding it to the other building, it was really busy since that building has a different scale of things happening on it. So with that, I think we can click through elevations, the rendering. So the point we made again at conceptual is all the vegetation in the wetlands is not shown here for clarity, just the one grand tree is, but obviously it's very densely vegetated. The public way sidewalk comes around the sign. That was made a little more gracious and curvilinear based on input from the mayor's office. This is the other front of the building. It has 2 fronts, so we think that cleaning up the roof line helps focus on the pop out, which is the screen porch and the public entry. And then there is a bid alternate for a photovoltaic array. And sadly, it probably won't be that big because there are some limits, especially electric, on how much capacity you have. I'm willing to show that as a possibility. And then you see here the way the cisterns are connecting to the 2 roof lines, and you can kind of see the expression of the garden bond pattern, as well as the low retaining wall between the sidewalk and the wetlands. And then lastly, we've simplified some of the structural detailing at the entry. And you can also see the use of rain chains on the south side of the building. That was less than 10 minutes. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
I have a couple questions. And I wasn't here for the conceptual review, so apologies. I'm catching up a little bit. But in that front area, I see where the wetland is, and then there's the large wetland buffer area. Is that also remaining undisturbed from a landscape perspective?
Yes.
Okay. So just keeping the existing plants. And then the retaining wall that kind of runs along the back of that, what material is that
It's
proposed to be?
proposed to be cast in place concrete.
Okay. And the last question I had about the landscape plan, where you have, it looks like a large generator and something else in there, I can't read the note. it's just labeled as exposed mulch in that whole area. Is that the intention, that it's not gonna be planted? It's just open mulched area?
Yeah, there's a note for like letting the forest floor litter, putting in some mulching until that has a chance to return. But David has a better answer. That was the design intent.
But even in the area where there aren't any trees or anything proposed?
As far as the generator,
Just around that, there's like a large area that's just labeled as exposed mulch.
yeah, we've gone back and forth on that. There's going to be a lot of activity around the backside of that. We want to screen, of course, to, as we said, the other front of the building, but felt that is backdropped by the existing vegetation. And really didn't require that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with the access. They really need access to all sides of the generator. They have to do regular testing. They hook up, they have a store diesel fuel in the tank, so they also draw on that in emergencies as well as for regular maintenance. So planting can kind of get trampled.
Any additional questions?
I had one question. The mechanical well, I know that it's come out outside of the building. Is that because stuff couldn't fit in there, mechanical equipment couldn't fit in?
It's both, yeah. The dedicated outdoor air unit was too big to go on the roof, and we ended up splitting it partially because it would have been way bigger of a screened enclosure. But by putting the air handling part in the building, it extends the life of it, and we don't have like the ductwork going into the building. So we're able to keep just the condensing unit outside. But the condensing unit for that dedicated outdoor air unit
It's big.
is big. And we looked at a lot of places on site and like there's no other good spot that's not like
It just feels,
right,
yeah.
right there. So we tried to make it kind of a quiet bed. But again, felt that it was quieter this way, but it wouldn't have fit in the recessed option because that would have been the whole unit.
Any additional questions? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak on this application? With none, David, staff comments, please.
Thank you. Staff comments have been addressed since the last board meeting. One staff comment, the city planning department is still wanting to see an additional sidewalk or boardwalk along Maybank Highway. The applicants have stated that the city will not pay for the walk. That would need to encroach into the wetland a few feet. Staff recommends that the walk still be installed. I was asked to put this comment in to see if we can get any additional, so hoping that the city may change their mind and pay for that on sidewalk.
And we'll, since you asked us to correct.
Just 1 second.
So that's all I have for staff comments.
Response to city.
Sorry,
comments.
I jumped again. I would say that it's inaccurate that the applicant stated the city would not pay for the sidewalk. I don't think that's an accurate representation, but also Beth is here to share some of what has been researched and presented for the city.
So I have met several times with zoning, planning, and the mayor's office. I provided several options for planning to consider. One of them was a 5 to 6 foot sidewalk within the property to either be evaluated a 10-foot wide sidewalk to be installed now, with a 5 to 6 foot wide sidewalk to be evaluated at a future date. So on Maybank after any potential widening. The city, being our design team and city staff, believes that due to the fact that there is less than 3 foot between where we could install a sidewalk and the edge of the pavement. We have wetland issues. That was discussed with planning that they recommended a curb and gutter, which we do not believe that DOT would approve. Nor do we believe that DOT would approve a sidewalk on Maybank right now because they're being encroachment. So what we are trying to do is to meet the intent of the planning office and so installing a 10-foot wide sidewalk with the potential to evaluate one on Maybank at a future date. And the sidewalk that was presented to
to the board at this time is what the mayor has also looked at with DRC and has approved.
Anything else?
I think so. If there are questions about the sidewalk, we can go into more details. I don't want to like
Yeah.
Let's talk about
oversell it
sidewalks.
right now, but we can really get into the
Yeah.
nitty gritty if y'all would like.
Sounds like a storied history. We are now in board discussion and or a motion.
I think the only comment I have, I don't think this is anything that would need to hold up the project moving forward, but I do think there's a lot of, and I understand the need for the lower maintenance approach and everything, but there's a lot of turf and seed and open mulch throughout the site. And I think particularly in that area that I pointed out that has so much exposed mulch, there might be a potential to restudy that area just to add a little more vegetation to soften it. And then, potentially kind of loosening up the landscape approach overall. It's all very straight lines, kind of rigid beds. And, in a rural setting, I feel like a little bit more looser, kind of naturalized approach would be a little bit more appropriate. Comments I have.
My only comment, architecturally, I think it's a beautiful building. I think height, scale, mass, we know that fits in, but again, I'll just applaud you. I think the quality of the presentation at this stage is what I'd like to see in a lot of these. The only, I guess, negative is that mechanical screen. To me, it kind of ruins the screen porch idea, because you're right next to a mechanical screen now with mechanical units in it, and you got a screen porch right next to it. But I understand why you did that. Architecturally, I see nothing to comment on that. I have a staff comment or an architectural comment. I think it'd be a great building to the site. As far as the sidewalk, I think the sidewalk is fine. But that's my only comment.
Additional comment to add?
No, I would not add a
I did
comment.
have one
I would
quick
be ready
question
for a
before
motion.
we make some motion. Where are you in the TRC process? I mean, I can see that the sidewalk is maybe unresolved with the city and TRC and just.
Done a TRC pre-application quite a while ago, and we're due to make the TRC first submittal actually in a few weeks. Because we're at early CD stage of the project.
Any other questions or motion?
I'll make a motion for preliminary approval. Board comment to study the area specifically around the generator, soften that landscape approach, study areas with turf, seed, and mulch. Study loosening the landscape design approach overall. Does that sound right?
Are you gonna ask staff to comment one or?
I was not going to.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion for preliminary approval with board comments. 1, study the area around the generator to soften the landscape approach. Is that right? 2, study areas with turf, seed, and mulch. 3, study loosening the overall landscape approach. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Any further discussion? Stephanie?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And I'm also yes in favor. Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 3, 1859 San Francisco Boulevard, requesting conceptual approval for a new Tommy's Car Wash.
I've got just a few context slides first. If I could direct your attention to the screen, showing you the location of the project.
Do we need to grab Dino's and Andy?
Oh, yeah. Yes, please, tell that.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
I think so.
Get started, we've also missed slides.
Just showing the location of the project. There's 1859 San Rothenberg.
Sometimes.
Close.
AT&T is coming.
The project's gonna have access off of Gardner and San Rothenberg, and then also the side entry as well. You move into the site. And I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening. Thanks everyone for your time. My name is Paul Waller. I'm with Bowman Consulting, civil engineering firm on this project. Also introducing some of the ownership team and then also the Tommy's corporate team to kind of dive into a little bit more of the specifics. My goal is to kind of go through the first couple slides of our submittal package, hit the site, existing conditions, site, and landscape, and then we'll turn it over to the ownership team to really dive into the specifics of the building, given the car wash use. The building is a big component of it, obviously, so let them to kind of take over that part of it. Yeah, we can go ahead. Let me know when you go ahead to the next one. Yeah, so these are existing condition photos. So we're on San Rothenberg Highway, access to Gardner Road. Next to the development is a O'Reilly Auto Zone. There's a shared access drive with the O'Reilly. And then to the north of the site, it's an old converted bank building. That's now, I believe, medical office building. So kind of right in between those two sites. This is, so small, I kind of bad really. So this is, the bottom picture is the existing site looking into the site from the Gardner Road access. So that's kind of over near the bank, the old bank. And then the next picture, those are, the top photo is along Sam Rittenberg looking into the site, as is the second one, that's in the O'Reilly parking lot, looking at the rear side of the building, existing building. This is, the top photo is on site. There's an existing detention facility in the southeast portion of the site. This picture is looking back at the existing building that will be in the bottom picture is the wall standing for looking at the site as well. Similar photos along Sam Rittenberg site, and this is the access on Gardner Road. So the top view is looking south along Gardner Road back into to get further down. There's residential back there, and then the other side is looking up towards Sam Rittenberg, up near that intersection. So existing condition survey. The site is currently a restaurant. It used to be an Applebee's, and it's converted over to a Mexican restaurant. And so we are proposing a full demolition, removal of the building and impervious areas. And proposed site plan. So the proposed building is a 110-foot tunnel car wash with 2 pay lane entry lanes, 13 vacuum stalls on that facility, and then also 4 regular vacuum stalls, which include 1 ADA spot. So as you come into the site from Sam Rittenberg, there is a shared access with that O'Reilly, and there's kind of that internal drive aisle. The property line is on the northeast side of that drive aisle, and then there's an access into the site on that rear portion, right where David's cursor is. And then there's also access to Gardner on the east side of the site. As far as the entrance into the tunnel, the pay lanes are to the northeast side of the building, so you approach there and then circle around and you head into the building. The north elevation, travel south, exit on the south elevation, and then go around to the vacuum stall and the exit the site. As far as site elements, with the stormwater regulation, we do have proposed underground retention on the site. We are incorporating some permeable pavers on some of the vacuum stalls on the west portion of the site. And then landscaping, we are proposing a lot of new proposed improvements to landscaping. There were a row of palmettos that were installed when the restaurant was converted from the Applebee's into the new space. TRC had recommended at that point to install those palmettos. So we are actually implementing, saving those trees. We'll actually be planning to relocate them. 5 of them are in good condition. There's one that is dead. So we'll be relocating those to the south of where they currently are, so we can implement a screen wall along the same frontage. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Trevor. Everyone's fine, the owner is fine.
I'll be brief. Trevor Sperry, 24355 Indian Bean Port in Albany, Virginia. Formerly of Somerville, but the mother-in-law's magnet was too strong, so I stuck back up north. I'm here with my co-founder, Mike. We were in business school together up in Boston, and we wanted to find a way to create better retail jobs for people. For me, I've had family members who have struggled with disabilities and really just hated the way that retail employees have been treated. Mike was getting out of the military as a fighter pilot in the Navy. Top Gun's not a biopic of him, as he tells everyone, but he was a fighter pilot in the Navy. And we came across Tommy's Express, which is a 3rd-generation family-owned business in car wash out of Western Michigan. And they came today just to explain stuff that is above our pay grade around some of the design elements of the building. David and staff have been awesome to work with, and we just wanted to come and just get some of your thoughts in a pre-application setting and work with you and brainstorm some ways to make this, the best looking project that we can get. As far as the actual operations of the car wash, something we're very proud of, and that Ryan just touched briefly on, is everything's designed to give our employees and our customers a great experience. And that's very important to us when we set these up, because we want to create really good jobs. That means just pay. So we start everyone off between $20 and $25 an hour. Every one of our employees is part of a profit share program, has full benefits, retirement, medical, dental, vision. We have paid maternity and paternity leave for all of our retail employees, even if you just work the window taking orders. We can do that because of all the design and all the operational intelligence that's been put into these that Ryan will talk about now. But we're excited to be here and looking forward to working.
Good afternoon. My name's Ryan Essenberg from Holland, Michigan, and glad to be with you today. I represent the franchisor of Tommy's Express Car Wash, a 3rd generation, family's 50 years in the car wash business. We've really tried to design something that to raise the standards for what makes a great car wash today, and really a category we kind of call upscale car washing experience. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. The facility is designed to be bright, safe, clean, professional, and a really new design of what makes good car washing. So we're based out of Holland, Michigan, and we've helped design and fine-tune this to customize to fit local look and feel. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have about car washing or how we wash cars or wash processes within the facility. So we look forward to serving the community.
Anything else? I will open it up to board questions.
Just curious, is your architect here by any chance?
What was that?
The architect, is he here? The architect. They're not.
Architect?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a, I want to talk about that and talk about the
Yeah, sure. So we both run the equipment side and the facility design of really, how a car wash is unique in that the facility and the equipment work together. Obviously, it's a tunnel shape. Cars come in one end dirty and come out the other end clean. So over the years, we've done a lot of the architectural design we kind of provide as part of that, but it's locally fine-tuned by our civil and engineering team.
The architect is not here, the designer, okay.
Yeah, so the architect of record is not here.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, but I can speak to some of the elements of the elevations,
Okay.
just very briefly.
And this I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, so we've been meeting with staff, I'd say probably for the last 6 to 9 months on this project, and we've had a lot of iterations. What we presented in this submittal package is a full brick building with a lighter gray. The colors have changed quite a bit over this one. That's something that we feel that we've been able to focus on. Are the colors for this, given the car wash use, just the system of it. The colors along the front, they are a lot more grayscale than this one. There's typically, I'm happy to talk to you.
Are you familiar with the West Asheville Revitalization Commission's recommendations as far as the evolution of design in the West Ashley area? Okay. There any is this a prototype?
Yes.
It's not.
This has been revised specific for this project.
Okay. And when I ask that question, I mean as far as the design, the elevations, and everything. This is different than anything that y'all have basically done. Is what you're telling me.
As far as like
There's some things in the facility that have, like where a cashier stands, so it's
Sure.
on the right side, it's like a pay window. That's where the cashier works from, so that area of proximity has to be by the loading area of the car wash. On the left side, you see this chunk.
I don't think he means from an operational standpoint,
No.
from an architectural
standpoint,
building
thank you.
standpoint, the design.
That's what I was asking.
Does this look like the one in Michigan or whatever other location that you're asking?
Yeah, substantially customized, so we've never done this particular exterior elevations.
Can you
Yeah,
maybe,
This was designed by the local team to, meet your local feel.
could you maybe point out to us some of the changes that were made based on the context or how you responded to the local context? I just think that would help us understand.
And we have
This has been something that we try to do in all of our markets, so we have, there are certain operational standards that are design standards because as far as the actual facade and some of the materials used, we can adapt those. But as far as like the look of the footprint of the building, Ryan can speak, the operating, it is the tunnel, right? So the way that even the curb and the lane is built for safety for our employees and for the customers. And so we don't want to mess with those things. As far as the facade, as Paul mentioned, we've been doing this stuff about 10 months now with David and the team. This is the one that is the basic footprint that we have done before with different, as our head of construction, with different materials, completely different materials. We've also workshopped a completely different idea that's really never been done. If you want to see that as well, we can show you that.
Gilmore, thank you guys again for your time. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, yes, we have tried to change everything possible that we can. Again, as Ryan mentioned, this is all about the customer experience, right? You can go into a Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, you still go through the same lines, sit down at the same table. This is where it's different. We've created a customer experience where you go to a car wash, where you'll watch people with their video cameras going back and forth, doing it. It's about safety, the openness, the brightness, and everything like that. Because why do you go through a car wash, you go through a dark dungeon tunnel, right? But with that being said, we can only change but so many things without changing that customer experience. So what we did, working with David through numerous months, is we've come in, we changed every bit of material. We have a board here showing that we're going to change again. We went to a board back style. So we've taken everything we possibly can to change so it's not a prototype, right? We changed the material. We've come in, we've changed all the material through here. We've even come in on some of ours where we lift these to be a little bit different heights and everything, and draw back certain items. Like down here, we drew this out where it's normally back here. So yes, we have come in to change it so it matches everything in the area. We've looked at the car dealerships in the area. We've looked at all the different types of buildings in the area and say, how can we kind of mimic this low country style that you guys are asking for, delivering that customer experience that they get.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak? David, staff recommendations, please.
With some observation first, DRB staff has met with the applicant several times. We did share with the applicant that we cannot support prototypes. The building materials were altered for this particular building, but it still is a variation that we auto entrance into the building, we even let the applicant know that we found we also informed the applicant that every effort should be made not to bring the car wash opening towards the main street. Given the nature of the site and the building length, this cannot be achieved at this location. Staff comment number one, a note on the site plan calls out screen walls like others, but they will need to be a part of this project with the detail provided. In general, we ask that the walls be the same materials on the buildings. Staff recommends a screen wall, 8 feet, 3.5 feet. The site circulation is a little confusing with the 3 entrances. Number 3, staff drive aisle. We wanted to do The staff comment number 3, the drive aisle that is close to the large 34-inch caliber gum tree is in the drip line of the tree will need to be shifted so that no longer is in that strip line. I spoke with Eric Schultz at TRC this morning, and he has relayed to the applicant the need to move this drive. So this is the gum tree right here. You can see this is the trunk of the tree right here. You can see how close the curb is. So currently this tree is within its own island. Eric said he's giving instructions to the applicant. And removing the asphalt around it, creating space for that particular tree. So that will need to be shifted for TRC. But unfortunately, staff does recommend denial. Staff support, cannot support.
Thanks, David. Does the applicant team have anything they'd like to respond to or clarify? One thing I would like to mention, just I'm not sure how familiar you are with this process, but we are simply voting on the design. We're not voting, we have no say, no opinion over the use. So it's not that we don't support the project, it's purely a design standpoint, just to make that clear. But if you have anything you'd like to clarify or respond to, by all means, this is your time.
Sure. I'll respond to a couple of the site elements that David spoke about. So the screen wall, we are proposing that as part of this project. The thought there, we do have it just called out of the screen wall right now. Our thought was that we would figure out the material through this process, and figure out what the building actually looks like, and then present that detail as part of a subsequent submittal. And then the circulation comment, David, I don't know if you want to pull up the site plan to talk through those 3 driveways. There's one existing access on Sam Rick Road that we will be utilizing. And then there's an existing access on the Garner Road, that road tied into DOT right away. And then interior of the site, there are those 2 access points at the back installer area to essentially get customers in and out of the back installer. And then yes, we are working with TRC staff. We have been through 2 rounds of comments with TRC. And the latest landscape comments did identify this week on the northeast property line. Our arborist, Luker, had identified it as a graded tree. So we are looking into that with the tree and trying to see if it's within safe. But that is something we are looking into.
And I would just say too, we're not, we also just wanted to brainstorm. We know the prototype is a big issue, and so we just wanted some thoughts of how to de-prototype it. As you know, we're still, there are some certain restrictions that we're under, but we think that especially for this, this stretch of highway, this will be about a $6 million project in improvement to the area. The building's built to be LEED certified. We reclaim the majority of the water that we loops. I mean, it's a really, expensive project, especially for that area, that will greatly beautify that stretch of highway. And so we want to make sure that we are doing it in a way that we can get support. But what's difficult is like, the prototype is kind of just a subjective term. And so we'd love to get some feedback from you all of how can we make this not a prototype and something that you would be able to more actively support.
I have a question. Have you studied any of the other car washes in the West Ashley area and what the prototype was, comparatively speaking, to what was designed, permitted, and built? More than the recent ones, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a this site location. We did notice that it was a brick building, kind of similar to what we see just in this package. And then from a site component standpoint, there's a lot of landscape.
Yeah, probably more building, not site.
I can speak to the brick material.
Did you look at the time to shine car washes? There's 2 in the West Ashley area. Has anyone looked at those? It would be worth studying both of those. They stray greatly from the prototype. Both were individually designed specific to the area within West Ashley. Came through the board, somewhat similar process with the prototype starting with it, and then they brought a local architect in and really did a fantastic job. I think the fence was a great example as well. I don't know, we can't necessarily tell you how to design your building. We can, encourage you to study, textual buildings and other car washes and just kind of how they responded. You'll see both the time to shine, the 2 in West Ashley were very, very successful projects. Very different, not even a Charleston prototype per se.
I guess, often this has been like a metal panel looking, so yeah, if you've seen any of our other facilities, they're kind of modern looking, and we thought this would cater to the look.
Yeah, one thing that we're kind of dealing with is,
Sorry, we're supposed to be in board discussion, and only if we have any other questions or if we're saying anything that's completely inaccurate, then by all means. But if it's okay, we'll just continue on with board discussion. If there's any other questions from the board, we will certainly ask them, but if you don't mind, we'll stick with our process. Thank you.
And just for clarity, so I noticed that the comment, first of all, I love deprototyped. That's a new word that I'm going to use as a matter of fact, so thank you for that. Is the applicant asking for guidance or asking for conceptual approval? I know we have conceptual approval down, but he was indicating that they were looking for guidance from the application. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question for staff. If we move for denial this evening, then how does that impact the site plan itself? It seems like there could be some issues with the tree, but otherwise, does that require that they come back with a completely different site plan?
Not necessarily. It depends on your motion. You decide that. Given that tree, it will need to show. So that may, I'm not sure what that's going to change for the whole site.
We're in discussion.
Yeah.
Generally, and this is just how we've looked at things in the past, is that if we issue a denial, it's a start over. Now, that's not necessarily start over every element. If there's something that works or we find that works, that can be represented. But it generally has been our approach in the past that you're not going in the right direction. Step back and take a look.
I mean, I asked the question because it's, based off of the questions and being on this board as long as I have. While I'm not the design professional in the room, I know we have some concerns. And, so moving forward with a conceptual approval seems out of the realm of the direction that we would move tonight, but I don't want to necessarily throw out the baby with the bathwater here, and so I just want to have clarity for the applicant on, what can stay, what can go, or do we just want to decide as a board that a deferral might be the more the way to go about it.
I think too, I mean, if the architecture is reconsidered and the way that we're asking and expecting, or that I anticipate we'll be asking and expecting, I think that's going to have some implications for the site. And I think that it may change the footprint, it may change some of the sizing, it may change some orientation. And so I think that almost saying that keep the site plan is like shoehorning them too much into that. Whereas I feel like the change that we would want to see is so different that it's going to inherently change the site plan as well.
Building might be too big for that site. Once you get your architect involved to look at it.
And we've referenced some projects and where, you may want to talk to staff about who did those projects. They've been through this process.
I think that from the standpoint of the material selection, I think you've really created some very nice, high-quality materials in regards to the evolution. I think what I'm struggling with personally is generations of ownership is just huge, and I certainly greatly can appreciate that as well. The building is a little too stylized. When you, to me, it needs to be, and I'm not saying that you necessarily, it just needs to be reevaluated in terms of its context to the area. If you really get into the heart of what the West Ashley, and Ashley can respond to this better than I can, but when you get into the heart of what WARF is looking for, West Ashley Revitalization Commission, it's creating a sense of architecture that is, first of all, contextual, that has a presence about itself that speaks to the Charleston area and to the West Ashley area. And it also is looking to create an additional springboard to other inspirational architecture that comes along. And when you become too stylized in an approach, you have somewhat encapsulated a design that's going to struggle to have any relationship with anything else around it. So when you look at this, you've got linear structures that are working, and then all of a sudden they're two very common linear structures volume-wise, and then all of a sudden there's this very, very different texture to or treatment to what's happening in between. That's where I'm struggling with how it's being presented. And I do believe that there are solutions within the context architecturally. Ben, you can talk more about this. But I think that that it's if you tell your architect, first of all, I would tell you, because we, as our chairperson was saying, Erica, it's so helpful from our standpoint to have the author of the design with us, because we can, and I think it would expedite the process as well as we go forward with everything. And Paul, not that you are not phenomenally talented in design, but I have learned that I don't touch civil engineering, I just don't understand it. So the design professional would be a huge asset as we go forward to help expedite the review process. But again, I think that one of the things that I didn't see in the application, aren't we supposed to have streetscapes? Did I miss that? Did we? I'm talking about with the building.
Yeah. There was a couple of simple ones, yeah.
Obviously missed that one.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yes.
Oh. It would help to have a little bit more context in that regard.
Answer to that,
If it's a question, or specific to the architect or to the streetscape, sure.
Well, yeah, just saying, yeah, we're happy to answer those, because technically we are also the designer, so we are the architect. For us is the people who draw the drawings, but my father's the artist of the team, and creates these. We've made them themed in many different ways, and yeah, we have very open to cater to that. We have another concept here as well that we've achieved that for many cities around the country. So, but that's any questions you have, I can answer that.
Well, that would be one of the things that I would go back and explore. I mean, you're starting with some familiar forms, but then all of a sudden it dissolves into an entirely foreign form to the area, and you want to go back and reevaluate that. I think contextually, in providing a real strong springboard as far as the architecture is concerned. And we do have, I mean, is it, what's the one up on San Rittenberg?
A time to shine.
Time to Shine does have an outlet that faces, but they did it in a very nice and simple and clean way, without a lot of fanfare, without a lot of celebration. It's just very clean and simple. And those would be my suggestions, and certainly.
Well, you have
designer here would be
the
helpful.
one on San Rittenberg, and you have conversely the one over on,
Yeah, that's what I said. There's the two time to
17.
shines that are very
17.
different. Yeah.
yeah, the you know, we're not pushing in one direction. We're kind of looking to y'all to bring us a solution that.
And I would think outside of just materiality. I mean, materials are good, but think of form, mass, what is the mass, how are you expressing that mass to the street and to the side alley, and not just keeping the same floor plan, but looking at the site and seeing how it works with the site and the landscaping.
Their motion.
I would, I think based on everything that we've said, I would move for denial.
Any comments? Do you with it?
Just demands a restudy.
So a motion for denial. Is there a second? Thank you, Andy. Any further discussion?
I'll just reiterate, because I don't necessarily know that the applicant has received the message. You guys are looking to spend an immense amount of money to construct this redevelopment of the site, and we've hired a lot of experts along the way. And one of those experts from the team needs to be an architect who's familiar with the area and the character and the expectations of this board. And so when you come back to us, I hope that that'll be part of the presentation, so that the conversation is very different.
Well said.
I will now call roll. Stephanie? Ashley?
Yes.
Erin?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes, in favor.
And I'm also yes in favor. Thank you all very much. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes from the May 15th, 2023 meeting.
Question about that.
Yeah.
The motion is recorded accurately, but without the comments specifically. Do we have to have those in the?
Now comments?
There were some staff comments and then some board comments. And they were like in discussion form, but not necessarily in with the motion.
Which one specifically are you talking about?
No, I saw Dinos's proposal.
So like it says
It's
approval.
kind of minutes, like.
We had staff comments 2 and 3, and then we had 5 board comments. Maybe listed separately with the motion, or is it okay for them to be in discussion format?
Because it was part of the motion. They need to be listed as part of the motion. We can just table the minutes and approve them next month with.
Okay,
with
I'm still not
Andy
sure what the problem is.
I can show you.
There were,
any.
Because
Okay, so let's make a motion to defer and then have a
There were
discussion on
comments made.
Is there,
A motion to defer minutes until they can be clarified.
thank you, is there a second? Thank you, Ashley. Any further discussion? I'll call roll. Stephanie?
Yes.
Erin? Yes. Ben?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm also yes. We're done.
I'll come show you.
Stop recording.
David, you can reuse my correctors.
Right, yeah, yeah.
thank you for the.
Thank you